Hello and welcome to another edition of the TSC live stream training. Um, and this week it's a little bit different to the sound ones that I've been doing before because I've got a camera and I've actually got a physical piece of equipment here in front of me that I'm going to talk to you all about. The first thing is for those people who are watching. Oh, just give me a sec. There we go. I think that's sorted it. For the people who are watching, if you can just let me know whether or not you can hear me in the live chat, because I'm using my laptop this week to live stream as opposed to my PC, so I just want to check that I've got the audio settings right. I apologise. Oh, it's me. Let's just turn that down a bit then, if that's me. Oh wow, that is really loud. Yeah, I apologise for those pops and bangs there. Let's put that on as well. Okay, I'll talk to you a little bit why that happened in a bit. Let me put my phone on mute as well. So what we're doing today, we're going to have a look at an analog sound desk. So the sound desk in front of me I've got is a Behringer Xenyx X1204USB. So this is a sort of an analog sound desk that wants to be a digital one in a way, because it's got a USB interface built into it, and it's got a small, in the top right hand corner here, it's got a small effects processor as well, which we'll have a play around with in a bit. Now the effects processor is a bit shit, but the USB interface makes it really quite useful and powerful. And thank you for confirming you can hear me, Freddie. So yeah, we're just going to talk generally about what everything does, what all the faders and all the knobs and everything do, and then we'll have a look at a bit more intricate different bits and bobs within this desk. The first thing to mention is this desk has got phantom power. It's got four, as you can see at the top here, it's got four microphone inputs, which are on the XLR along the top here. So, and you can put phantom power on all four of them, which is what this little red light here means. I'm not sure if you can see what that says. Ooh, this is where we try zooming in on the camera. Whee! I've never done anything like this before, so bear with me. So you can see there that it says plus 48 volts, and that is actually a red LED. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but the one on the left is an orange one for the power, and the one on the right is plus 48 volts. So there we go. Right, zoom back out again. This is exciting. This is. So, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I was just going to tell you a little bit about the setup I've got at the moment. So I've got just a condenser microphone. Now, if you don't know much about microphones, that's fine. Generally, there's two types of microphones. There's the dynamic microphone, which is like an SM58 that we had a look at as I talked to you when I did the M32 training. And there's also a condenser microphone, which is the style of microphone I'm using for this. Condensers are generally used in studio settings because they are more sensitive, because they work slightly differently, as opposed to dynamic microphones like a 58, which is rugged and can be used in a live setting. The main difference is that the internal workings. So a condenser microphone needs a plus 48 volt electronic charge in order for it to work properly. So on the back of this sound desk, which I'm not going to move the camera around too much and show you how that works, but it's got two buttons. It's got an on and off button, and it's got a phantom power button, because plus 48 volts is what it needs, and it's called phantom power. So that's generally the setup that I've got here, and then the way that I'm getting it into my laptop is via the USB on the back, which you can't really see, but it's that tan coloured cable right at the back there where my finger is, and it just plugs straight in, and then it's just a USB mic source on my laptop. So that's the setup I've got here, and the only other thing that I've currently got plugged in is my headphones, so I can hear what I'm doing. Unfortunately, I didn't think about getting a sound card and running the stuff I need for the live stream off a sound card. So what I could do instead, so that we were completely just using the sound desk for this, is I could run a USB sound card into my laptop instead. But it doesn't really matter, and it's nice because it means that because the sound desk is plugged into the laptop, that you're going to be able to hear stuff that I'm doing, but you'll just have to ignore this channel for the time being. Let me just have a quick drink, and then we'll carry on. So, first things to say is this sound desk is quite an old sound desk. They still manufacture them. You can buy them today. I've just bought a brand new one because this is old. I think this is 2013, so they've updated it slightly, but it does exactly the same job. The Xenyx, if you're thinking about buying a little sound desk, the Behringer Xenyx series as a starting out desk they're fine for what they do. For what you're going to use it for, they pretty much do the job for you pretty well. So that's why I've bought another one, because for what I use it for, I don't need anything any more complicated for the time being. So a couple of things to mention is some of the channels are a little bit dodgy. So like the reason I'm plugged into channel 3 here is I was testing which mic to use. So I had one in 2 and another mic, this one that I decided to use in the end in 3, because channel 1 is a bit dodgy. But for all intents and purposes, it doesn't really matter for this at all. So to start off with, we're going to have a quick look down a channel strip, because I'm aware that obviously I've done the M32 training, and the only problem with jumping into digital straight away is that you can't really get a sense for what you're doing on a digital desk, because it's all in a computer, whereas here you should be able to see what, each thing has a knob, a physical knob or a fader in real life that you can adjust so that you can change whatever you want. So quickly having a look down, I'm going to try and zoom in again here just so that you can see what I'm talking about in a little bit more detail. This is like the worst live stream in the world. Oh, let's not go that far. Do you know what? What can we do here? I'm not a camera person either. Let's zoom this. There we go. So we'll start on the first half, nice and smooth, and then we'll work our way down the desk. So this top section here, if we can focus it a bit. Also, if the camera goes off, I do apologise, because I'm running it over USB, so it's all a bit of a bodge job, but we'll go with it for now. It's not quite a professional as Matt's 1210 thing that you did the other day. To be honest, if I do one like this again, then it may have to be pre-recorded as opposed to live stream. Anyway, so starting off at the top of the desk, and I'm just going to move my mic as well so that I can actually get to the sound desk a bit easier. So apologise if you can hear some noise in the background. So we'll start off over here on channel. We'll start on the channel I'm actually using. So at the top you've got the input. So the inputs are XLR inputs. Then underneath that you've got a jack line input. So if you remember, let's just turn this light round so you can actually see what's going on here. Is that any better? Not really. Any better? Not really. That'll do. There you go. So we talked a little bit about the difference between a mic and a line level. So you've got two, you can probably see it better over here. So you've got a mic XLR input there, and you've got a line level input over there as well. So you've got your mic is on XLR and your line level is on jack. And then underneath that you've got a low cut, and underneath that you've got a gain knob. Okay. So, as you can see here, I've got a mic plugged in on an XLR, which is the one I'm using. Underneath that, we've got the line. Now, over here, I have 2 jacks. And these are... My XLR cable's in the way. There we go. These are 1/4-inch jacks. There's quite a few different types of jack that you can get, but generally what you see is being used in the industry is the camera does think the XLR is a face. I'm doing it over USB, so it's a bit of a bodge, so it's a bit dodgy. So it will keep doing that, I'm afraid, for the time being, in the top left-hand corner, which I know is a bit annoying, but there we go. So there's 2 different types of jack. You've got a 1/4-inch jack, which is what these are, which are the bigger ones, and then you've also got a this is attached. Where's it gone? Over here. you've got a 3.5mm jack, and this is the one that you generally see being used and for like mobile phones and laptops and stuff like that. This one is for my studio speakers in here, so my PC speakers. And this is a stereo jack, so you can see that on each, these jacks are slightly different. So on this one, it's got two little black lines. I don't know if you can see that. Oops, where's the camera gone? It's not going to focus there, is it? It's also not got autofocus on, so I have to keep focusing it. I'll just leave it down there on the desk so you can see that there. So they've got two little black lines, and then on these they've only got one black line just at the bottom. Okay. Now the reason for that is because this is a balanced stereo jack, and these are unbalanced mono jacks. And I can't remember if I've talked about this in the past. I don't think I have. I'm not going to go over it now, but basically what happens is, I'm going to move that out of the way because it keeps making horrible noises. These mono jacks are left and right because they're labelled white and red. So these are very similar to the phonos that you would plug into a DJM. And I have actually got some phonos that I might get out in a bit, I think. Somewhere over there. So yes, these are mono. So this means that we can send a left signal down the white one and a right signal down the red one, and these come out of my PC. So these come out of my studio PC on a 3.5mm jack, and they split down into these left and right so that it can be used with a sound desk like this. So what I generally do, there's various places you can plug these in. So I could plug them in there like that, for example, and do them on 3 and 4. We can plug them into 1 and 2 into those jacks, which is what I'm going to do now because I'm using channel 3's XLR. So I'm going to plug them in like so. Oops, daisies. And that means now that any sound that comes out of my desktop PC, which is over here, comes in on these two jacks here. I'm just going to move the camera just a tad, and we're going to move it up slightly so you can actually see what I'm talking about with a bit more light. There we go. So yeah, so you've got left and right there, and then you've also got this XLR here. Now you can, so that is the same across those 4 channels. You've got an XLR doing a mic level for you, and you've got a jack in here as well on a line level. Now these two over here, which is 5, these are channels 5, 6, 7 and 8, are slightly different. So these have left and right channels on just on jack on each one. So these top 2 are left. I don't know if you can see the little L's written there. And these bottom 2 are right. So these have got 2 R's written there. Okay. Now what these are, there's no real difference, but it means that you can pick and choose, and obviously you haven't got a mic level on here. It says here bal or unbal, so you can plug unbalanced. So you can plug a jack with 2 black lines on that's balanced into these channels, and you can also plug unbalanced that's only got 1 black ring on it also into these channels. So what I like to do, if I've got a little analog sound desk like this and I've got a PC coming in on a channel, what I like to do is plug, sometimes I'll do this, so you go diagonally across, so you've got your left in left on one channel and you've got your right in right on another. Or what you can do, instead of taking up 2 channels with your PC like you did over here, is you can just take up 1 channel, and you can go in like that, and you can go left and right, and that's just 1 channel, and then you could have another one plugged in here if you want. So it just makes it a bit more versatile and gives you lots in a small sound desk. You may notice these little buttons as well, so I'm just going to talk about them very briefly. So the ones under here on the mic channels 1 to 4, these are the low cut buttons. So again, when we did the M32 stuff, we talked about this briefly. So these are preset low cuts. So these will take out a certain amount of the low end, which of course is what you want on a mic channel, because you don't want loads of boomy bass at the bottom. And you may have noticed earlier on when I was first getting set up that I pressed the button in at the very beginning because it was out, and that's why we were getting quite a lot of those pops. I also turned the gain down quite a lot because I'd got it turned up quite high because I hadn't got my headphones turned up very loud. So I thought I was quieter than I actually was. So yes, that's what that does, and that low cut is set at 75 hertz. I think that says. I can't actually see. Yeah, 75 hertz. Okay, so that will take out anything underneath 75 hertz on the channel. You probably won't be able to tell the difference, but if I take it off, I can tell very briefly in my, it's a tiny, tiny little thing in my headphones. But you may be able to tell. I don't know. So, YouTube might not. I did watch back my M32 thing actually, and when I panned from left and right, it didn't make any difference. I listened to it through my stereo speakers and it made absolutely no difference. So God knows what YouTube does to the sound. It may only take in in fact, I think it might be OBS actually, because I'm running it as a, oops, we've gone off. Can we come back on? Ah, this is interesting. Here we go, it's coming back. And there we go. Sorry about that. It's the software. I think I may have to have the software open all the time. Let's just see, has it sorted itself out in OBS? No. Give me a second. There we go. Sorted. We'll try that. It's just, I hope that's come back on for you guys because the live stream's a bit delayed. So I'm just going to carry on. If it doesn't flick up back on my screen, we shall see what happens here. There we go. It's popped back up. So where was I? Yes, so that's a low cut. That's set at 75 hertz, and then you've also got the gain underneath there. These two over here are slightly different. So these change the level in terms of decibels. That the level that it comes in at. So if it's pressed in, it takes out minus 10 dB, and if it's raised, it adds 4 dB. Okay, now I can't really show you that without it. Well, I suppose I can actually. Let me put these. I think it should be okay in that channel. So if I play some music from my PC, I'll just pick something random, some generic pop. Oh no, that's a bit dodgy. Let's try the other channel. So as you can see, without a proper clean, there we go. This sound desk needs a proper good clean and tidy. And on the inside, it's just filthy, which means the contacts inside don't touch very well. So you can hear that. Is coming in at that level, and then if I leave it going, I'm just checking OBS so it's not peaking. So there you go. So I think that's actually written on the wrong way round, to be honest, because when it's taken out, it's actually quieter. Lizzo we'll have a mixture. So let's have some Lizzo then, if that's what people want, and then we'll have some Dimension. We'll go through everybody. Any more requests? We'll have it in the middle. There you go, there's your Lizzo. And you want some Dimension, yeah? Dimension's easy. Dimension's on the playlist that was on. He says, right at the bottom. Where is he? I don't know. He's disappeared. Yeah, here's some Dimension. Oh, Clara, this is your Dimension song as well.
Something like, if you want to.
So as you can hear, when I press the button in, it makes it louder. Yeah, that's enough of that. So yes, so when you've pressed it in, it adds and boosts the level, and when it's taken out, it takes the takes some level off. And I apologise if you can hear people in my house in the background. Right, let's move our way down then, because I'm a bit sick of the top of this sound desk now. Oh, some other bits we've got up here just before we move on. We've got 2-track and USB. Now this is sort of an old thing now. This is a hark back to analog sound desk era, because these don't 2-track and USB doesn't really feature on digital sound desks. 2-track is basically a way of bringing in and taking out sound over phono. So as you can see, or RCA. So as you can see, you've got your white and your red. On the left hand side, these are your inputs, and on the right hand side, these are your outputs. So what you can do is bring in a whatever you want, whatever it may be, an input on your phono inputs, and you can also take this output is a main left right copy that goes out on 2-track and USB. The reason it's called 2-track / USB because this works exactly the same for the USB interface on the back. So what you can do is send sound down the USB from your laptop, and it comes in on your main left right as if it was an input here. And when you output down your USB, it goes out as a the USB takes a main left right copy, which is exactly the same thing that comes out here. So that's why it's called 2-track / USB, because the USB interface does exactly the same job as this 2-track does here as well. Some other bits, I'm going to just unplug these jacks so that you can see what I'm talking about and hopefully see what's written on the desk. Just move the desk there. So these here are our stereo sends and returns. So you can see here we've got aux sends. So these are your auxiliaries. Hope you're enjoying the people shouting in the background as much as I am, and you can hear it. So these aux sends here, 1 and 2, these are jacks. These are stereo jacks, I believe. Which allow you to take a jack out of the desk, off into an effects processing unit, and then you come back in on a stereo aux return on these two here. So an example of this would be a graphic EQ, for example, or a reverb effects, well, just an effects processor, as we saw on the M32. So you would take a stereo aux out your graphic EQ off, and then you would bring it back into the sound desk. So it allows you to take the sound out and process it in a way and then bring it back in again. Which we'll talk about a little bit, how you send to these. We'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, and the only other thing is this little jack here, effects foot switch. What you can do in this desk is you can plug in a foot switch, which again allows you to put some effects and stuff on your channels. Right, if we zoom out and move down, which is just going to take a sec while I sort the camera out. I think that will do for now. Let me zoom in a bit. What I'm going to do for the time being is just focus on the 4 mic channels, because they are they've basically got everything that a M32 mic channel has. Just move the desk a little bit and move my light so you can see what's going on here. Whoa. As you can tell, not the resident lampy. So that's really working really well, as you can see, coming in from just one direction. Which what I could do, I have got some more lights over here. Let's go proper lampy. That's doing next to nothing. If we turn this one round. 1. 2. That looks shocking, doesn't it? Never mind. Right, we'll go with it. Let's get rid of them. That'll do for now. Okay. So what we got going on here? In fact, to be fair, I could probably get this to do some sort of downward ting, although it's a bit bright, isn't it? God knows. I think it was just better there, wasn't it? Let's just do that. Right, anywho. This is exposing how dusty my desk is. Yeah, well, it's old. Let's focus it. There we go. As I say, it needs a good clean and a good, both internally and externally. Right, where are we going with this? Okay, so moving down from the gain knob, which is just above this little compressor knob here. Let's just shuffle that down a little tad. So the gain knob is just up here. Underneath here we have our compressor. It is really dusty, isn't it? Look at that. Oof. Right, so underneath that we have this knob here. This is our compressor knob. And what I can do here is da 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 da. Oh, you can see it triggered there. Da 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 da. So as we know with compressors, well, you may not know how a compressor works. If you don't know how a compressor works, it doesn't matter because I'm going to tell you now. So a compressor has a set threshold, okay? So until it will allow sound through until it hits a certain threshold, and then when it gets to that threshold, it means that it will start to cut off any sound that goes above that threshold. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you, I haven't got a clue what the compressors are set at on this desk. Should have maybe looked at that before I started this. But the problem is with these sort of preset, and this is one of the problems with this desk because it's quite cheap, is it means that everything has sort of a set preset and it's a bit stuck and set how it is. So like the low cut, for example, on a M32 it's dead easy to change it. You can set it at whatever you want. On here, because it's on a button, you can turn it on, you can turn it off, but you can't change at what frequency it adjusts at. It's exactly the same with the compressor. All you can do is turn the compressor on and turn it off at a certain level. You may also notice, I don't know again whether you'll be able to tell this on the stream, but as soon as I put the compressor on, it actually increases the volume of the mic slightly. It shouldn't really do that, but it does a little bit anyway. So, yeah, that's that. But that's what you get when you buy a cheap sound desk. So yeah, it has a ratio at which it will take out the sound as well. So again, I don't know. This little diagram that's painted onto the sound desk gives you a bit of an idea at what level it's doing that. Oops, daisies, I've just knocked that camera. But yeah, it is what it is. But that's what that little knob there is. And it has got a nice little handy LED, so when you start to clip and hit the compressor... Oh, right, okay. So someone's looked this up before and they don't give a range of the compressor. So there you go. It's the shittest compressor in the world. But that's on there anyway, just in case you ever want to use it. As you can see, I've got a mic plugged in. My levels are adjusting all over the place. I'm not really that close to my microphone, so I've chosen not to use it because it's just easier not to. But I mean, if you have a desk and you want to play around with it, feel free. Underneath that then, we have the 3-band EQ. This is pretty much standard on most analog desks. Some analog desks will do a 6-band EQ. Some analog desks will do, I don't know, I don't think I've seen one with an 8-band, but I think you can get them. Mainly 3 or 6. They do them pretty much in multiples of 3 or 2. This one just has 3, very similar to a DJM. Again, I don't actually know what frequencies the DJMs are set at. This one tells you, so the high is set at 12 kilohertz, the mid is set at 2.5k, and the low is set at 80. So basically, again, these are very much set preset frequencies that you can only really adjust um, at that level. So it will only affect 80 hertz. It'll only affect 2.5k, and it'll only affect 12k ish. I believe these. Well, these will be parametric EQs, so it will do a little bit either side of that. But generally, it's pretty standard and pretty simple EQ that you get here. Some sound desks, a lot of the Soundcraft Spirit sound desks and some of the Soundcraft range have, and the Allen and Heath ranges, I believe, also have it where you can select the frequency. So the EQ will have quite a lot of these are on bigger sound desks as well. Bigger Behringer Analogue desks also have this. They'll have usually a different color as well. So I've seen them before where the selector is like a greeny lime color and the actual EQ is blue. Blue is generally the color they use. I think Behringer will use blue anyway. It's usually a dark color. I don't know why. So what was I saying? Yes. So some desks come with a channel with an EQ selector, so you can set the frequency that you want, and then underneath that is the knob like this that adjusts how much of that frequency you have in or out. So just be wary of that, because I believe Millie, our big ML4000, has the selector and then the adjusting of the volume underneath that. The adjusting of how much that frequency in or out you have. Underneath that, then we come on to the aux send knobs. So these knobs send to those jacks that we were talking about earlier. So that aux 1 and 2 that was at the top of the sound desk. These are how we send to those auxes. Now there's two types, and the orange one is quite important on this desk. These little grey knobs that are covered in dust down at the bottom here, have a preset as well. So you can press the preset button and that will send to your aux at a preset level. Alternatively, you can set the level. These have on this desk as well at halfway. So the EQ, generally on an EQ in the middle, I'm not sure whether you can see this. Oh no. We've got to the point now where just by knocking some different bits on this desk. There we go, it's just in there. It's alright because it's sending to YouTube in mono. But when I tapped there earlier and I was moving that, I think it might be the mute button actually. It took it out the right in my headphones, which sounds really weird. So these little, when you get into the middle, I don't know whether you can see or hear, but there's a little click, like a rough bit, and that means that you can get everything back into center. Now the auxes on this desk have that. Some desks do, some desks don't. But generally, if you leave it at half, sometimes it works. It will very much depend on your processor. Some processors on their inputs are really, really hot inputs, so you won't need to send a lot to the processor. Some are quite quiet inputs, so you'll need to send quite a lot to the processor. So again, if you're tasked with setting it up, which you will never be tasked with setting it up in Foundry, because it's already all. I mean, the only thing you'll be tasked with doing is sending it to the processor. So you'll just have to play around with it and see what happens. Okay, but generally, it's up to you when you get down to these bits how much of each thing you send. Moving further down, you can see here on this desk, because it's got the little built-in effects processor, it's got a little FX next to this orange aux send here. So this is aux send 1 and this is aux send 2. As you can see, there's a little 2 underneath all that dust there, and this is the effects processor. So if I turn this up here, and this is where I just need to zoom out. Ooh, let's leave that in the middle. Let's not move that. Let's try and get it pretty much central again. I'm going to try and get this central now and zoomed out, because the rest, And the easiest way to central it is not send to the camera, is send to the desk to the camera. Let's just tap that up a tad. The best live stream TSC has ever done, in my opinion. Right, so where were we? Okay, so the effects processor is this little unit here. And, oh, apparently my stream's completely cut off. I'm just going to keep going. Who knows if it reconnects? Everything is still connected. So, don't know. Oh, okay, back again now. Okay, lovely. Don't know what happened there. So, if I send this to this effects processor, I'm sending it to the effects processor at the moment. Now, for some reason on this desk, you have to send the individual channels, and then you have a master send here. So if we turn that up, that is now sending into this effects processor. So this is a very basic understanding of how an effects processor works. So basically what we've done here by turning these two knobs up here is we're now, if we had an effects processor plugged in here, remember in this desk it's all internal because it's actually just there. But if we were sending to an effects processor, basically what we've done by turning those two knobs up is we're sending it now to, it's actually going to number 2. Which means it's going off to an effects processor, which is here, and then it's coming back in. So we've sent it. So if I now, you can't really see it, but if this mic input was louder, it would show da da da. Oh no, I know why. Because that's not my mic input, is it? My mic input's here. La 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 la. So you can see now, because I have now sent the right channel, it is, and I've sent it really, really quite hot here. It's got a little digital display, and this is why I say this is an analog sound desk trying to be a digital one. It's got a little LCD display here, which is registering that this effects processor is receiving an input. Just turn that down a bit because we don't want it to sound horrible. Which most effects processors do have a little LCD screen or LED screen on them somewhere that shows how hot the signal is coming in. Now, so what we've done is we've sent it to this processor, but we're not sending it back into the sound desk, so it's not coming out the main left right, which is why you can't hear the effect that's on the desk. This is the list here of all the effects. So currently we're on reverb number 1, which is a hall effect. So if we turn this up, you can hear, again, I hope you can hear this on the stream, la la la, that it sounds a bit like I'm in a hall, maybe. My favourite is number 13, I think, which is the D tuner. Da 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 da. There you go. So that makes me sound even weird.
Pitch bender.
Woo. A delay. Which, so this button here is tap tempo. So you can make it really, really, really fast. Or slow it down. La la la. So that's that. And that's how that works. One thing to mention about this desk is it's got this alt left and right here. So if you mute a channel, for example, that is mute, and it then sends it to alt 3 and 4, sorry, not left and right. So these channels here are their own independent mix. The weird thing is though, you can't, so this isn't like a bus, because you mute your channel and it sends it here as well. Now when I first bought this desk, I thought it'd be useless and I'd never use it. But actually, it can be quite useful. You can see I've just pressed that mute button here and it's got a bit stuck because it's really old. I have to help it out a bit. There we go. The useful thing I found about using this is when I do like a phone call, like a Skype call or a Discord call, for example, Because what I can do is normally the way I have it set up is I have my PC audio, so the people that I'm talking to coming in on 3 and 4, and I mute them and turn them up on Alt 3 and 4. And then this little setup here, this selector selects what goes to your headphones. So you can send everything, or you can just pick. So I turn Alt 3 and 4 and main left right on, so I can hear everything pretty much that's going on the desk. But they then can't hear themselves back, and then I just send them my mic unmuted down main left right. So it is useful for stuff like that, particularly for sampling things in your headphones, because obviously if you muted a channel, it's muted and you can't hear it in your headphones, but you can as a result of this Alt 3 and 4 here and being able to select it in your headphones. So it has its uses, but it's not as useful as a bus send. Obviously it does a slightly different job. The reason I was just telling you about that is because over here, this button here that you can press in and out chooses where you send your effect. Okay, so you can either send it to the main left right like I just did, or if I press that in, that's now sending it to Alt 3 and 4. Again, I don't really know why you would use that. I mean, the Alt 3 and 4 you can sample in your headphones. It also has 2 jack outputs on the back of this desk. So, again, I don't know really why you would use it on Alt 3 and 4 and not your main left right. But I suppose you could do. Who knows? So, moving aside from that, carrying on down the channel strip, because we've just sort of had to go off to the side there to talk about what these do. The last thing at the bottom here is your pan. So, again, this, if you pan it to the left, it takes all your sound to the left. If you take it to the middle, it's balanced across left and right. And if you take it to the right, it goes to the right. Now, again, because I've realised that my sound is in mono, you won't be able to tell the difference whether I pan it left or pan it right. For my mic, I meant. I can hear it in my headphones, but you can't. I'll set it up differently next time so that if I have a play around with stuff, you can hear it. Where was I going with that? So the key thing to bear in mind with these, first of all, is again they've got a locking thing in the middle. So when you get to the middle, it's got like a little bit where it locks, so you know you've got it dead center if you want it in the center. If we bring these jacks back again though, so if I had them plugged in diagonally like so, the problem with doing that is if I turned these 2 channels up now, they would be completely in the center, and I can try it. Whether it'll work, I don't know, because these channels are a bit dodgy because I use them all the time. But, you know, let's find out, and let's have something a little bit different. There we go. Oh dear, it's a bit broken. Okay, but generally the problem you get is if you leave it in the center, although we're plugged into left and right, what it does... Oh. No. Left's a bit dodgy on both of these channels. Let's see if we do it backwards. Unreroute the rivers, let the down... No, bit dodgy. But generally, if you plug them in like this and you leave it in the center, what happens is, although these are mono signals that are only giving you one half of the track, if you like, one side of it, either the left or the right, what it does is it takes that one bit of the track and it puts it together, and it sends it to main left and right. So what you can get away with doing is just plugging in one, like so, in right, and it'll send it to both left and right. It doesn't on this desk because this desk is a bit dodgy. But yes, so you have to be careful with that. If you do plug it in this configuration, like so, and you want to be able to have independent control of left and right, because at the end of the day, you could that's fine. But it means if you turn down one side, it makes absolutely no difference at all, because it still sends your right to both left and right. So you have to turn them like so. So, oh well, we want it the other way because red is right. So you have to tell the desk that you want to pan it so that each individual fader, one does left and one does right, and that's actually working now. Because the left is dodgy on this side, and I believe the right is dodgy on this side. I don't know. But either way, now, if you could hear it properly, this channel is doing left in my left headphone, and this channel is doing right in my right headphone. So don't be fooled. Even if you are using mono cables, you still have to pan it on the desk, because it's just the way that sound desks work. The last few bits. How long have we been going? 45 minutes nearly. Last few bits. Down here, these big buttons that you can't really... Oh, I didn't want to do that one because that's me. Are the mute buttons. And that turns on this little orange light. Most sound desks, most sensible sound desks have mute buttons. There's only ever been one... I've come across one sound desk in all my... I sound like a granddad. In the 5 years I've been doing this, working in the industry... I've only ever come across one sound desk that was quite old that doesn't have a mute button on it. Instead, it has an on button for the channels. So instead of the channel being on all the time and you having to mute it to turn it off, all the channels were off all the time and you had to turn the channels on, which was so frustrating. So most sound desks now, in fact, if there is one out there that's a manufacturer that's still doing it, then it's just a stupid idea. That's a pain. So yeah, like I say, most sensible sound desks have mute buttons as opposed to turning the channel on buttons. Which this one has, which are the bigger buttons. The ones underneath that, as you can see, they're a bit sticky. Oh, I forgot about that. Are the solo buttons. So what the solo button does is that the solo is that one channel. Okay, so it takes out all of the others and just gives you that one channel. Okay, now the joyous thing about this is it's brilliant for monitor engineer, as I was talking about, because it means that you can just listen to individual channels and get the EQ right and whatever you might be doing, get the gain right, and etc. On smaller sound desks like this, again, I don't really get the point of it, because generally these smaller sound desks like this aren't going to be used for doing big live stuff like that. But I think they just put it on... Oh, we've gone off again. Shoop. Makes a funny noise when it does that. Oh, the battery's low on my camera as well. That's not good. Let's just sort this out for you. Liquid spirit. There we go. So where was I? Yes, I think they just leave this on really as a way of keeping the basics of a sound desk on even the most basic sound desks. But even some of the smaller ones don't have solo buttons like that, so just be aware of that. The very last thing to mention... Oh, have they removed them on the newer model? There we go. We have, from the horse's mouth, somebody who has just bought a sound desk, exactly one of these with me, says they've removed it on the newer model. So there you go. They haven't got them anymore. These red lights as well are also clip buttons. So if I was clipping this, any of these channels, these red lights would flash. So it's the solo and clip button. The couple of other things over here that are just really... Well, you've got PFL. So PFL is pre-fade listen. So again, if you solo if I solo myself, you can see first of all that this big red LED shines up here. That's to tell you that you've got solo turned on. If you then press in this mode here, that takes you to pre-fade listen, or PFL. What that allows you to do is see what your mic level is actually going to be before it goes out to the live setting, to the main left right. This is again a lot easier to do on A, bigger desks, and B, digital desks. I again don't really use this at all on this sound desk, but it means that you can adjust, if you really wanted to, you can solo a channel, you can listen to it in your pre-fade, so you can have it in your headphones or whatever monitoring you're using, and it means that you can get all your levels right before it goes out to the main mix. So that's what that does. And that's pretty much it. And then obviously you've got your main left right faders down here. This knob adjusts how loud your headphone level is, so you're not really going to see what that does. This red button here is 2-track, so 2-track on this sound desk and on quite a few sound desks I've seen is labelled red. So 2-track USB. So if I was sending in some audio down the USB cable from my laptop, again, if I wanted to hear what that sounded like in my headphones, you can preview it in your 2-track. So you can listen to anywhere you get sound from on this desk, you can listen to in your headphones. And this one here is also a red button. This doesn't do the same thing. What this does is it sends your 2-track input to your main left right. So if I plugged in my phone here, for example, on these phono 2-track inputs, I would have no level control apart from the level on my phone and the main left right faders, which is why I'm not a massive fan of 2-track. But you know, if you really want to do it, then it's up to you. But that's how you get a little bit of control, and it also means that you can actually hear whatever you're bringing in from your 2-track input, because it means that you can send it to your main left right. And that's pretty much it. Now what I am just going to try and do very quickly is turn it round and show you the back, so you can see what outputs we've got, but I'm aware that my microphone is plugged into this, so I don't want to turn it off or anything like that accidentally. Oh god. See if we can get it to do it. The problem I've got is the power cable on this isn't very long. We may have to just adjust the camera angle slightly in order for this to work. I should have thought about this again before I started. Right, let me just adjust the camera angle. Oh god. No, we're not going to adjust the camera angle because the camera is on a very short USB cable plugged into my laptop. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave that there. And if you've got any questions about how to do things on the back, basically on the back of this sound desk, there is oh, okay. So there's two. All right, that's interesting. So there's two versions of this sound desk. Thanks, Sam, who's in the chat, for having a look at this. There's two versions of this sound desk. There is a version with the effects processor. I'll go back to talking about the back in a bit because we just need to talk about this first. There's two versions of this sound desk. The version with the effects processor on and the version without. The version without doesn't have the solo buttons. The version with does. So this is slightly more expensive with the effects processor, and obviously they decided to put the solo buttons on the one with the effects processor but not the one without. So there we go. How exciting is that? Okay, the last thing is on the back of this desk there are, let's see if I can add this as an input so I can show you on my screen. No, it won't do it. On the back of this sound desk there's two XLRs. They're your main left right out. Other things you've got, there's two jacks as an alt 3 and 4. There is also another two further jacks which you can't really see. I'll spin it round, look. You can sort of see underneath here. There's two sets of jacks, and then underneath the USB interface there's two XLRs. So there's two jacks for the... Oh, he sent me a picture. Thanks, Sam. I'll leave it for now, but, you know. I'm sure people can use their imagination of what a jack looks like. The other two jacks are for the control room out. And the control room out is a direct copy of your headphone output. So again, if you have headphones, but you also want to have, I don't know, like a little monitor speaker, like an active speaker or something, then you can... I knew that was going to happen at some point. Just knocked the IEC. Yeah, you can do what was I going with that? So you've got multiple outputs of whatever goes out your headphone amp, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that is about it. The only other thing I would mention is obviously think about when you're using an analog sound desk about your order in which everything happens. So what I mean by that is your insert order, okay? So when you have something plugged into your desk at the top, work from the top all the way down to the bottom. So as I was saying with the M32 video, you always start at the top with your gain and work all the way down to your fader. So as you can see on this sound desk, I haven't really done a very good example of that because I've actually got my fader. It's just slightly under 0 actually, but from the video, it looks about to be at unity. It's not quite, but again, it doesn't really make too much difference. Okay. What I would say, and the only reason for that is because of the setup I've got. I didn't want to gain it too high, and if I have it any lower, it's just no good. Particularly for a live stream going out on the USB interface into the laptop, it makes it just works if I have it in this setup. But again, make sure you don't rely on your fader too much, okay? Because that is the level at which it's going out on these two faders, the main left-right faders over here. This is adjusting the level of this, of what it's coming in on, okay? So if I turn my gain all the way down and I keep talking, you can hear me, but it's really, really quiet and it sounds horrible. As soon as I put a bit of gain on it, there you go, I need to get further away. It sounds much cleaner, it sounds much better, it doesn't sound like I'm miles away. And gain and the reason for that is because it's boosting the original signal that's coming in. All this fader is doing is taking whatever the level is coming into the desk and sending it straight out the main left right. So you want to make sure you gain before you even touch the fader, which is why your solo and your PFL is quite useful, because you can get a little bit of green going on your LEDs over here and a bit of a signal, and then you can start to increase your fader. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm talking about 30, 25 to 30 centimeters away from the mic that I'm using, because it's a condenser mic. It's quite sensitive and it will pick things up around me because of its polar pattern, which again, if you don't know about, don't worry, because I should be covering that at some point. Which means I need quite a high gain, but I also, in order for you to get a level, as you can see here, it's got a really, really quiet level, but it sounds all right on the stream, and it's not, I hope it does anyway. We'll find out when I listen back to it, but I think it does, because the OBS level's all right, it's in the green. But in order for me to be able to talk this far away, the input level that I've gained, I also need to give quite a lot on the master fader for this to work, okay? But really, really, please do be careful and think about the way that everything gets inserted, because it starts at the top and works all the way down to the bottom. So even things like your high and your EQ and stuff and your compressor all goes on before it even gets down here. And I think that's pretty much it. I want to try and do a live stream that's under an hour, and we're currently at 58 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to end it there. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to whack them in the live chat now. If I miss them, don't forget you can email tsc@sheffield.ac.uk and me or somebody else will get back to you at some point. And next week, I don't think I've decided what I'm doing next week yet. I don't think it's on the Google Sheets that I've made with what everybody's doing. But it will be sound related, and I will make sure that I get it out on the Google Doc or in the various Facebook chats at some point. So I hope that was useful in some way or another and wasn't too repetitive of anything you may have seen before. And I hope now that means that the M32 stuff that I did makes a little bit more sense, in terms of you can see what I mean about everything that's happening and the order that it happens in, and why you need to gain first before you fader, and all the basically what's happened is they've taken what happens in the analog setting and just put it into a computer setting and made it digital. So I hope that's useful, and I should see you next week. Thanks for watching. See you next week.